If you talked about the second moon, you helped pull it down. I did. I'm not a space guy. I fix printers and drink too much coffee. I live in a 2-room place over a nail salon, in a town with one real supermarket and a lot of churches. I go to bed late. I sit in the kitchen and let the fan run and scroll until my eyes hurt. That's how I saw it first. Through the dirty window over the sink. A second moon, smaller than the real one, off to the left. I stared, then looked away, then checked again. It was there. I took a picture with my phone because nobody believes you if you just say it. I went outside in slippers. The street was quiet. A bus hissed past 3 blocks down. The second moon hung in the same patch of sky. The edge looked too clean. Not soft like the real one. And it wasn't where the moon should be. Not in my head math of months and seasons. I don't keep track, but you know when the moon is wrong. This was wrong. I went back in and sat at the table. I put the phone on the salt shaker to steady it and took another photo out the window. I posted them with, "Is anyone else seeing this?" A few people said it was a lens thing. Some said it was a reflection in the glass. One guy said, "LMAO, it's the sun," which makes no sense at 10 at night. Then a girl in town posted her own picture from the hill by the water tower. Same second moon. Same clean edge. The news didn't say anything that first night. I checked 3 local stations. One had a web story the next morning. Unusual night sky sightings. You could tell they didn't want to freak people out. No numbers. No expert quotes. Just a line about keeping an eye on it. That day, I had printer jams all morning. I kept thinking about the window and the second moon. When I came home, I measured. I taped a little mark on the window frame so I could hold my phone in the exact spot each night. I drew a light pencil line on the glass where the top of my phone should go. I'm not precise, but I tried. I took a photo, then printed it at the pharmacy. I got a cheap ruler and drew a pencil circle around the second moon in each. I wrote the date and how many millimeters across. I put them in a stack. Night 2, it was bigger. Not by a lot, but it wasn't my imagination. The circle on the second print was 2 millimeters wider. I put both photos on the table and showed the landlord when he came by to check the radiator. He doesn't care about much. He stared and said, "Huh," and rubbed his jaw and didn't want to talk about it anymore. Online, everybody argued. Some had videos. Some clips showed it moving like a balloon, and other clips showed it fixed, like it was bolted to the sky. The comments were a mess. People posted the wrong dates. Old photos. There were jokes. A few said they couldn't see it at all. My friend Evan texted me a meme of the moon with sunglasses, and I told him to come over and look. He came by after work. He stood at my sink and looked through the streaked glass and went quiet. "You see this?" I said. "Yeah," he said. "That edge is too sharp." We went outside, and he kept looking up. He had this weird grin. I told him to stop looking for a second and just breathe, and he didn't. He said, "It's fine," and kept staring. It made me uneasy. I told him to cut it out. He finally took a breath and looked at me with glassy eyes, and then looked back up. I went inside to grab him a beer to break the spell. When I came back out, he was gone. No sound. His car was still out front. It was so fast that I laughed like an idiot and called his name like he was hiding. I walked to the corner. I checked the alley. There was a knocked-over trash can. His car door was locked. His phone wasn't on the seat. I stood under the streetlight with the hairs up on my arms and said, "Evan, again, quieter." My voice bounced weird off the houses. I didn't call the cops. What was I going to say? He looked up, and then he wasn't there. I went back up to my place and sat on the floor and whispered, "This is stupid." And then, a few seconds later, I heard a very soft, "This is stupid," from outside, from up, like a copy. I froze. I said, "Hello?" and counted in my head. 1, 2, and then a soft, "Hello?" from above, and my window hummed. I slept badly. The next day, my phone screamed at 10 a.m. That tone, the one from weather alerts, but it said, "Emergency alert. Avoid prolonged sky observation. Stay indoors at night. Expect unusual tides." I'm inland, but we have a river. The river looked wrong. It was lower than it should have been at noon, and then high at 6 when it should have been lower. The ducks spun like they were on a lazy whirlpool. Dogs barked and then hid. The grocery store lot had a raccoon under someone's car in broad daylight. It wouldn't come out. It watched me like it knew something I didn't. That night 3, I took my window photo. Bigger again. 4 more millimeters. I made a little log in a notebook. Date, time, size. I noted the hum. My windows buzzed on and off. The cabinets rattled sometimes like a truck was passing, even when the street was empty. The second moon had a notch now. Not a crater. Not a mountain. A straight cut. I don't know the word. It was too straight. Edges like it was made in pieces. I did not post that night. I didn't feel right. I drank coffee and kept the lights low and watched the ceiling fan spin. I could not sleep. My head felt jumpy. At 3 in the morning, I went to the bathroom, and on the way back I looked out the hall window. I could hear voices down the block. A few of the neighbor kids. They were shouting up at it, like a game. Every time they shouted, the same words floated back from above a second later. "Do the voice!" they yelled, and then, "Do the voice!" came back thin and tinny. The kids shrieked and laughed and did it again. The hum rose. The roof antenna on the building across from me shook. The next day, the local news put a guy from the college on. He looked like he hadn't slept. He said there was an object and it might be closer than it seemed. He said not to panic. He said it was probably a trick of reflection. He looked off camera like someone was telling him to cut it short. The national news said to avoid rumors. They had a doctor talk about stress. My neighbor Hal went the other way. He's retired. He wears those black socks with sandals. He knocked on doors and told people he was forming a watch group to keep an eye on it. He made a printout. He wrote, "Skywatch 9 p.m. Cul-de-sac." He said the old men at the VFW were bringing folding chairs. I told him it was a bad idea, and he smiled like you do with a crazy person. He said, "It's a public service." I went to the supermarket after work number 4. Everyone else had the same idea. The parking lot was jammed. The inside looked like a storm day. People grabbed water and batteries and jerky. One guy filled his cart with cat litter like the apocalypse was going to have a bathroom problem. The siren at the fire station wound up twice while I was there. A box of cereal fell off the shelf while I walked, and I jumped like an idiot. A kid in the next aisle had a bloody nose for no reason. He cried and held his face, and his mother kept saying, "It's the dry air," like she needed it to be that. The tide thing got worse in town. We don't get ocean tides, but the river knocked at the banks in the wrong rhythm. People posted video. The bridge footings had swirls around them, and fish flopped hard and then went still. My landlord's dog whined and hid in the bathtub. The bats came out at 4 in the afternoon and scattered like they forgot how to steer. Night 5, I cracked. I made a thread with my measurements. I posted the photos, the ones with the ruler and the pencil notes. I wrote, "It's getting bigger," and I measured. People ate it up. I woke up the next morning to thousands of messages. A girl in Florida tagged me. A dad in Ohio did my window tape trick and posted his numbers. The whole thing started. A subreddit. A tag. #SecondMoonMath. It felt good for 1 hour. Like I wasn't crazy. Like we were doing something. Then the hum started early that day. Noon. The lights in the nail salon buzzed and popped, and one made a sharp crack and went out. The second moon came through even in the day, faint but there, and it looked bigger than it should after only one night. My stack of photos on the table looked small suddenly. My numbers looked stupid. I felt my stomach drop. I said it out loud in the kitchen. I fed it. That afternoon, the police blocked freeway entrances. They put up a sign that said, "Non-essential travel discouraged." A highway cam showed cars at a standstill. Some pointed the wrong way. My phone screamed again. Avoid gatherings. Do not engage in collective observation. Stay away from waterfront. That night, every siren in town was busy. Small crimes and small fires and whatever else happens when everyone is afraid. Hal's watch group still met. They sat in lawn chairs with blankets and hot chocolate. They pointed and talked. Hal had a clipboard. He made a list of times the hum got louder and when it got softer. He made a big check mark every time anyone heard the echo voice. I stood at the edge of the circle. I told them to go back inside. I said, if attention is what it wants, stop giving it attention. Hal told me to relax. We're being scientific, he said. We're documenting. He turned away from me and stared up with that same stupid grin Evan had. A guy next to him with a beard leaned back in his chair and stared, and his hot chocolate cup tipped and spilled on the pavement. The hum went up in pitch, like a transformer getting mad. I tried to grab Hal's shoulder. He shook me off. He said, "Shh, listen." And then, a second later, the sky said, "Shh, listen," in this flattened, thin voice, and people clapped. I went home and shut my curtains. Day 6. I tried to leave. I packed a bag. A flashlight, some cash, the old baseball my dad left me, 3 changes of socks, the stack of photos, my notebook. I watered the spider plant because I thought maybe I'd be back in 2 days. Stupid. I got in the car and went the back way toward the highway. It was like a bad holiday. Bumpers, heat, horns, people yelling. Roadside signs said, "Turn your broadcast radios off and avoid upward gaze." A loudspeaker truck rolled by slow, telling people to go home. I kept the visor down and stared at the scratch on my windshield. A woman in a pickup next to me kept glancing left, up, then down, then up again like a twitch. The first time she did it, I squeezed the wheel and said, "Don't." The second time I said it louder. She didn't hear me. She rolled her window down and yelled something at the sky. 2 seconds later, the same words came down and she laughed like she heard a good joke. The line of cars moved 3 feet. Up on the bridge, I could see the river. The water slapped high against the side like a slow hand. I realized if I kept trying to leave, I'd be stuck on the bridge at night with it right over me. I took the first exit and went home. The days collapsed after that. The sun felt wrong. I looked at my watch and it said 2:30 and the light outside said evening. Shadows moved fast. The shadow of the radio tower crossed my street in minutes, not in an hour. At weird times, I'd look up from the sink and my kitchen would be blue like dawn, even though the microwave clock said noon. I didn't sleep more than a few minutes at a time. When I did, I dreamed of looking and waking and not being in my skin. The hum threaded everything. It touched your teeth. The worst was when it would stop for a long minute. The quiet had a weight. Then it would come back, stronger, like it wanted you to miss it. I stopped posting. The #SecondMoonMath thing kept going without me. It got worse. The more detailed people got, the faster it came down. I threw my notebook in the drawer. I went downstairs and told the nail salon girls to turn their radio off, and they did, and then turned it back on because they were scared and wanted to hear the news. When the radio was on, the hum swelled. I checked on Evan's place. His door was locked. His landlord said he must have gone out. He had no other family here. I sent him messages anyway and watched the typing bubble that never happened and felt sick. Night 7. It wasn't a moon anymore. It filled the sky like a lid. You could see lines under the skin of it. Long seams. Angles. Places where plates met. Some parts looked like vents. The edge had small, straight bits all the way around, like teeth, but not like teeth. More like not teeth. I'm trying to not sound dramatic. It was made. It wasn't a rock. It moved in little steps, not a glide. If everyone in town went quiet for 5 minutes, it went quiet too. If someone started yelling, it leaned in. When Hal's group sang that old hymn, the thing lowered faster, steady, like it enjoyed being noticed. I don't know why the hymn got me, but it did. I sat on my floor and cried. It was so stupid, and then it wasn't stupid. It was my town. It was every small, dumb thing we do because it feels like doing something. At 10 that night, my phone buzzed with a video call from a number I had deleted. I stared at the screen. It was my sister, Kate. We hadn't talked in 3 years. We had screamed at each other at our mother's house about money and health, and I said some things you shouldn't say. She said some too. We hung up and never called back. I made jokes about it to hide that it killed me. The call timed out. I pressed call back before I could think. She answered with her face too close to the camera. Her eyes were red. I could see a blanket and a lamp behind her and a little smear of kid markers on the wall. "Hey," she said. Her voice shook. "I didn't know if you'd pick up." "I'm here," I said. I stood and sat and stood again. I didn't know where to put my hands. I pressed my palm on the counter. "I have the boys in the bathroom," she said. "We put pillows in the tub. We turned off the lights. There was an alert about keeping lights low. I don't know. I don't know." Don't look," I said. "Don't open the window. Turn the phone around." She turned the camera so I could see the bathroom. Towels, the kids piled up under them, a little hand sticking out. She turned it back to her. "I'm sorry," she said, and she said my name like it meant something. "I'm sorry about everything. I'm sorry about that night. I'm sorry I called you a leech. I was scared and I hated myself, and I took it out on you." My throat closed. I said, "I'm sorry I called you a stranger. You did everything for Mom, and I bailed when it got hard. I thought you were judging me. You weren't. You were just tired. I'm sorry. I love you. I should have said it then." She nodded hard and wiped her nose on her sleeve. "I love you." We sat in silence for a second, like we were catching our breath at the same time. The hum threaded through the call, and the ceiling in my kitchen shook a little. I could hear her boys whispering underneath the towels. I heard the sky return one of their whispers, in that thin, late voice, and I saw her eyes flick up and then force back down. "Don't talk," I said quietly. "Don't say anything more than you have to." "What do we do?" she said, still whispering. "Do we tell people to shut up? Do we post?" That's when I knew what it wanted. It wasn't the noise. Noise was fine. It wanted the kind of attention that measures, that points, that names. Like what I had done with my photos and my neat millimeters and my thread. I felt this stupid clear picture in my head. Every eye was a hand on a rope tied to it. Every post was another pull. It wasn't food. It was traction. I went to my front door and locked it. I turned off my phone screen and held it in my hand and turned it back on to keep talking to her. I felt the hum rise when the screen lit, and then settle a fraction when the screen went dark. It was that sensitive. My heart slammed in my chest. "We go quiet," I said. "We make the kids be quiet. We don't text the group chats. We don't post. We don't record anything. No pictures. We don't look. We don't give it edges and circles to grab. If we feel like saying something, we count to 100 with our mouths closed." She nodded. She wasn't nodding like she agreed with my theory. She was nodding because she needed a plan. She said, "What if nobody listens?" "We can't make them," I said. "We can only do our part." I swallowed. "If I post a warning, it'll blow up. It will. It'll pull it harder. I already did enough damage." She started to cry again. It was quiet, hot crying that makes you breathe funny. "I don't want to die," she said. "You won't," I said. I was lying a little and telling the truth a little. "Keep the boys under the towels. Close your eyes if you need to move from the bathroom to the hall. Put the phone under the sink if you have to so the light doesn't show. I'm going to stay on, but I'm going to turn off my lights. We'll be quiet." She nodded. She tucked the phone into a dark corner under her sink, camera up at her face from below. She lay on the bathroom floor next to it and pulled a towel over her head like a kid hiding. I turned off every light in my place. I unplugged the fan. The hum got louder to fill the hole the fan made. I put blankets along the bottom of the door. I pulled the fridge plug, then put it back in because I thought about the food. I turned the ringtone off. I turned my brightness down to nothing. I sat on the floor with my back against the cold stove and pressed the phone to my ear. We didn't talk. We breathed. Once she whispered my name. The sky whispered my name back a second later, and we both flinched and didn't do that again. The town outside moved like a slow machine. Every time a siren wound up, the ceiling above me lowered. Not by feet, but like it was taking a set, like it was finding a notch. A car alarm started, and then stopped, and that felt good, like a hand unclenching. Somewhere, a group of idiots cheered, and then there was a snap sound like when the power company trips a line, and then the hum rose. Hal's group must still have been at it. After a while, I heard nothing from that direction. Not a chair scrape. Not a cough. It was the longest night of my life. Time did a bad thing. It stretched and folded. The microwave clock might as well have been a painting. My body forgot it had to swallow and then remembered, and I choked on my spit and clapped my hand over my mouth and cried because the sound was too loud. Once I thought about getting up and running. My legs twitched. It felt like the thing outside could taste the thought and leaned in. I forced my mind to the sink drain and the spider plant and the scratches on the linoleum and the dent in the fridge door where I had kicked it in a fight with the old tenant about keys. Stupid small things. Every time my mind drifted to the sky, the hum trembled. Around 3, the hum changed. It lost body. It was still there, but it was thinner. The windows didn't vibrate as much. The echoes came slower. A guy down the street yelled something mad, the kind of drunk angry, and the sky repeated it 7 seconds later instead of 2. That gap felt like air coming in a room that had been shut for a long time. I stuck my finger into the curtain and peeked a sliver and then shut my eye because even that felt like feeding it. The edge of it was so big and low it covered everything. It was the sky. At some point, I fell asleep sitting straight and woke with my neck locked and my tongue dry. The hum was faint. The room was light, but the wrong kind of light. A gray on gray. I pressed the phone to my ear. "Kate?" I said. She whispered, "I'm here." Her voice was cracked but alive. "They're asleep. The boys. We made it through." We stayed like that the whole day. Short sentences. Mostly no sentences. When the boys woke up, she gave them cereal on the floor. They giggled, and the sky scraped their giggles, and then gave them back 2 heartbeats later. She shushed them, but she still let them giggle. You can't boil your kids. I moved my hand every hour so my leg wouldn't go numb, and I fought with my bladder and I won for a while, and then I lost and felt stupid and small and also okay because I was alive. By the second night of quiet, the thing had risen a little. I could tell because the sliver I saw with my bad peeking didn't press so hard on the tops of the buildings. The echoes came later. Close sounds didn't bounce off it at all. Far away sounds did, but like they had to travel farther. I kept my phone off the table. I kept my notebook in the drawer. The urge to write it all down ticked at my fingers, and I left the drawer closed. I pictured it as a line to pull and cut my own hands off that rope and put them in my pockets. The town changed. I don't mean some big speech. I mean small. Less arguing in the hall. Less cars. The nail salon girls taped paper over the windows. The river ran more normal. The ducks came back and turned in slow, neat, small circles, like they were practicing. Kate slept for a full hour at a time. I slept for 2. The hum thinned. It was not gone, but it was not the only sound anymore. I heard a garbage truck. I cried when I heard it. The normal sound of a bin smashing onto concrete. It sounded like the world had edges that had nothing to do with the thing above us. Later, when the worst passed, the posts went weird. Some people said it had gone fully. Some said it was never there. Some said it was still over their town. It was all noise. The news ran a montage of people clapping for some reason, and a guy in a suit said, "Collective vigilance," and I turned the TV off because even that felt like feeding a ghost. Hal was gone. His lawn chair sat open in the grass. His clipboard lay face down. Evan was gone. His car got towed after a week, and I watched it through the curtains and pressed my fist to my mouth. I didn't post the warning. I didn't record a big speech. I didn't write a careful thread with tips. I wanted to so bad. That urge lives in me. It's a little machine that turns feeling into content. I unplugged that machine. I called 2 people I loved. Kate and an old friend I had messed up with in another life, and I said what I needed to say, and then I shut my mouth. The quiet did it. Not just mine. Enough of us. Enough of us did nothing and starved it. It took 6 nights to go from ceiling to something you could ignore if you had to. We never talked about it in town the way you think. We didn't hold a meeting. We didn't make a plaque. It would be a sick joke to make a plaque for something that ate attention. A month later, I went to the river and threw away my notebook. It felt dramatic and dumb, and then it felt right. Kate sent me a photo of the boys covered in spaghetti sauce. I saved it to my phone, and I didn't post it anywhere. She and I talked twice a week after that, even when there was nothing going on. Sometimes I'd just call to hear her breathe, and then we'd hang up. That's the only thing I want to keep from the whole thing. The part where I learned to keep quiet when quiet is the thing that saves you. I'm telling you this now, late at night with the fan on and the window open a crack. I'm watching the curtains move. I picked my words out of careful air. I don't have photos. I don't have a thread. I don't have numbers for you. I don't want to pull on anything. If you're asking what to do the next time you see something up there that shouldn't be, shut your mouth. Close your eyes. Call someone you love and say it plain. Then do nothing with the rest of it. It's heavy. Let it be heavy. Don't help it down. E.B. That's it for tonight's tale. If it kept you up, maybe leave a like to keep me company. Subscribe for more strange stories. And maybe, just maybe, click the next one before the lights go out. See you in the next one.